everyone, I'm Claire, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing some information about my nail polish use in 2025, how many polishes I added to my collection, if I wore everything I own, and my favorites of the polishes I tried for the first time last year. I feel like for some people there are two parts to a hobby. One part is doing the hobby, and the other is making spreadsheets about it or otherwise tracking it in some way. My partner has his board game journal. People use apps to track their reading stats. I'm certainly not an expert when it comes to statistics or making functional spreadsheets, but I do keep track of some different aspects of my nail polish collection. I know it's a little late to be doing a year in review type video. We're a couple months into 2026. I wanted to get this up sooner, I just haven't had a lot of time to make videos lately. But I still wanted to share this info, so let's get into it. We'll start with how many polishes I added to my collection. At the start of 2025, I had 85 polishes, and that does include specialty finishes, toppers, creams, all of that, but not top and base coats. That's just what makes sense to me. I know different people count things differently, so feel free to argue in the comments. So in January, I added 2 polishes to my collection. I placed a Mooncat order to get one of the Dearly Departed polishes they announced, and also one of the Powerpuff Girls polishes, since I knew it wouldn't be around much longer. In February, I bought my first polishes from Lurid Lacquer. I placed an order on their site for 3 mystery prototypes and the polished frost on the window panes. And then I also got their Hella Handmade Creations offering, so that's a total of 5 polishes. I didn't actually receive them until March because Lurid shipping can take a while and HHC is a pre-order situation, but I decided it would be easier to go by when I make a purchase versus when I receive things. In March, I got some Cadillacers, a couple from the collection they put out that month, and one from a previous collection, and I also got the Lurid lacquer that was available in Polish Pickup, so 4 total. April was one of the busier months. I added 12 polishes to my collection. Holo Taco released an April Fool's Day polish called Born Ugly, so I got that and redeemed my birthday reward at the start of the month. Then they had their loyalty sale later that month, and I got 4 polishes then. Mooncat also had one of their 2 yearly sales, so I got 3 polishes from them, one with rewards points, and then I placed my second Lurid order for 3 polishes. The next couple months were pretty slow. In May, I got 2 Mooncats, which were both covered by rewards points, and June was the first month that I didn't buy anything. I wasn't intentionally doing a no-buy, but that's just how it worked out. In July, I bought Holo Taco's 6th anniversary Bon Voyage collection, which was 6 polishes. I also placed an order for 4 Cadillacers, a mix of mystery prototypes and older polishes, and I got their PPU polish as well, which brought me to 11 polishes in July, one of the busier months. In August, the only thing I got was Cadillacers PPU polish, and in September, I placed an order for 4 Lurid lacquers, a mix of some new fall releases and older shades. In October, my one order was from Polish Pickup. I got the Cadillacquer and the Lurid. Then November, unsurprisingly, was a bit busier. I got 7 polishes from Holo Taco during their Black Friday sale. Mooncat released their Avatar collab, and I bought 2 of those polishes, plus redeemed rewards for a 3rd. And this is also the month that I received the 4 Geeky Bees polishes that I won in a giveaway from Polished Mess. So that adds up to 14 polishes, and they're the last ones of the year because I didn't get any in December. If you were counting along, then you know all those months add up to 57 polishes. And I'm pretty happy with that number. I didn't have a certain goal going into the year. I wasn't necessarily on a low buy, though I did want to avoid spending too much because I didn't have a lot of extra room in my budget last year. But when it came to actually deciding what to get, I just stuck to the 4 brands I buy from and mostly got what I wanted from them. And that meant that my collection did grow significantly, but it didn't feel like it grew too much. There were some moments throughout the year where I felt a tiny bit overwhelmed by my list of untried polishes, but there weren't long periods where it felt like my collection was growing way too fast to the point that I was getting more than I would be able to use. So going into this year, I'm planning to stick to a similar system. Maybe I'll add another brand, maybe not. And if I end up adding a similar number of polishes to my collection, I think I'll be happy with that, though I would also be happy if the number is lower. The next thing I want to talk about is how I actually used my collection, because I did have a goal for that kind of changed partway through the year. I think I mentioned in my video about why I only buy polish from 4 brands that I think a good size for my collection would be small enough that I can use each polish at least once over the course of a year. If I remember right, I was able to do that in 2024, which was my first full year in the hobby. But at some point in 2025, I was like, what if I don't actually care about using all my polish this year? Don't get me wrong, I do still want to be able to use most of it, but if there are some polishes I really love and some I don't enjoy as much, why should I force myself to use the ones I don't enjoy when I could spend more time wearing the polishes I like better? So I did still try to use a lot of my polishes. If I was trying to decide what to wear, I would look at what I hadn't pulled out in a while, but I didn't make it a rule that I had to wear everything, and I also let myself repeat polishes when I wanted to. And over time, I think this approach will give me some useful information about my collection, because if there are polishes that were unused last year and end up being unused again another year, then I might consider passing them on to make room for things I like better. So over the course of 2025, I painted my nails 48 times. And for me, that means changing the polish on both hands. I know some people just do one hand at a time, but I always paint both hands on the same day. I like to do it once a week, but there were a few times I was traveling or busy or sick, so I just left whatever I was wearing on for another week. Now, there are 2 ways that I count how much I use a polish. One is how many times I reach for it, how many manis it's part of, and the other way is how many nails I painted on. Because there's a difference between reaching for a polish twice to use as an accent color and twice to use as a full mani, so counting the number of nails gives me a better idea of how much it was used. For example, I used Holo Taco's blush mani 2 different times, once on 2 nails and another time on 4 for a total of 6, whereas Mooncat's Jewel Beetle got to 6 nails with just 1 use. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to tell you my most used polishes in terms of how many times I reached for them, and in terms of how many nails I painted them on. I'll also tell you my least used polishes, the ones that only ended up on 1 nail over the course of the year, and the ones I didn't use at all. When it comes to how many times I reached for certain polishes, there were lots that I only used once, and a couple dozen that I reached for twice, but only 2 that I used more than that. The first is Holo Taco's Solar Unicorn Skin. I used it 3 times. This isn't too surprising to me, it's one of my favorite toppers. It has orange to yellow iridescent flakes, and I seem to really like pairing it with pinks and purples, so maybe I should try to branch out with how I use it this year. But either way, I get decent use out of my toppers, so it makes sense to see one here. And the other polish is Mooncat's Poems for Harvest Moon, which I used 4 times. This is an orange polish with pink shimmer, and I do really like it, but I also wouldn't list orange as one of my favorite colors, so it might seem a little bit surprising that it's the polish I reached for the most times. But I actually think it makes sense that I used it so much because for a lot of the year, it was my only true full coverage orange polish. So anytime I specifically wanted to use an orange, like for a Rainbow Skittle mani during Pride, or for some spooky season nails, it's the one I grabbed because I didn't have a lot of orange options. So yeah, a couple of oranges on top in this category. When it comes to the polishes I used on the most nails, I'm going to tell you every polish that I used on at least 10 nails because that's the equivalent of using it for a full mani, though that's not actually how I used any of these. So the first 2 are repeats. Solar Unicorn Skin and Poems for Harvest Moon each ended up on 10 nails across their various uses. And then there's another Holo Taco, their polish Misfire, which also made it onto 10 nails. I do really like this polish, it's a great sparkly red, but I also wouldn't say it's necessarily one of my top favorites. The reason it's here though is that I used it at the start of the year when it was new to my collection, and then at the end of the year in my Christmas mani. But going forward, I don't think it'll necessarily continue to be one of my most used polishes. Then we have a lurid lacquer called the Observer's Paradox, which is a green to pink duochrome. I got this one from Polish Pickup in the first half of 2025, and I knew then that I wanted to wear it when Wicked Part 2 came out, but I also didn't have the patience to wait that long, and I used it before then too. So I used it on 5 nails 2 different times for a total of 10. And my most used polish on a total of 12 nails is Cadillacquer's The Quiet Chaos. This is a polish that joined my collection in 2025, and I used it once soon after I got it, and once near Christmas on 6 nails each time. Beyond really enjoying how it looks, I was also making an effort to get a lot of use out of it because it's a thermal, and thermals don't transition forever. I know I won't be able to use all of it before it stops working, but it would be nice to be able to enjoy it a few times while it still transitions. Honestly, one of my goals for 2026 should be for more of the thermals I have to make it onto my most used list. But it's fun to see that this year there was a good variety in color and finish and brand. So that brings us to my least used polishes, and like I said, I'm going to start with the ones that only made it onto a single nail. When I looked through my spreadsheet and made this list, I realized there were 3 Skittle Manis I can connect these polishes to. A Skittle Mani is where you do a different polish on each nail, so these are the polishes that were in a Skittle Mani but didn't get used at any other time. So the first Skittle was my Rainbow Pride Mani, where I used 10 different polishes. Some of those polishes, like Poems for Harvest Moon, did get used again, but the ones that didn't were Hollow Taco's Sunshine Crush, Para Don't Bother Me, Green Taffy, and Teal No Lies, and Mooncat's Demeter's Harvest, and House of Hades. Of those, I think the one that I've used the most in other years is Demeter's Harvest. It's a gorgeous glowy yellow that also works as a topper. And the one I really need to use more is Para Don't Bother Me. I'm pretty sure I've only ever used it in Skittles, so I really need to wear it on more nails at once to fully decide how I feel about it. And then next was a Skittle with a lot of browns. I wore Lurid Lacquer's The Cardboard Queen on one hand, and then 5 different Hollow Taco browns on the other. And the 4 that didn't get used at any other time last year were Burnt Bridges, Tax Haven, Fairy Tale, and Need I Say Mocha. I love brown polish, so I really should wear them more, but I also just have a lot of them, so sometimes the best way to make that happen is to wear a lot at once. And last is the yearly Skittle that I do with the Hollow Taco Sophia Nygaard collection, because that was the collection that got me into nail polish, so I like to repeat that mani every year so I can look back and see how my nail painting and photography skills have improved. I think I wore Mooncat's Enchanted Mist on one hand and the Sophia polishes on the other. And there were only 2 that didn't get used again, Spirit Fingers and Bury Me in Hollow, which ironically are probably my favorites from the collection, so they have gotten used more in other years, they just didn't have their moment this time. Also, the only reason that Feeling Fiendish was used another time is that it was part of the Rainbow Skittle. And that brings us to the polishes I didn't use at all, even though I had them all year. There are 11 total. I'll save the most shocking one for last. First is A Song of Ice and Fire from Cadillacquer. This is a polish that I got in 2024 and used once then. It's a gray Crelly with black glitters and orange iridescent flakes. And I do like it, but I think I'm realizing that when it comes to glitter and flaky polishes, I sometimes prefer a more glassy jelly base over a milky Crelly, just because it gives more visibility for the different elements. I do still think it's a fun polish. It looks like a granite countertop, but I ended up with another Cadillacquer, a prototype polish, that has some similar elements and colors, but in a more sheer base, and I like that one better. I'll have to see going forward if I end up reaching for this one at all. Next is Ivory Tower, an off-white cream polish from Hollow Taco. Another polish that I bought in 2024 and used once then. I'm not too surprised that it's part of this list. I don't enjoy white polish very much, but I got it because I thought I might prefer a warm-toned off-white. And I do. I think it's a good polish and more flattering on me than a stark white would be, but it's still not something I'm going to reach for that often. The next 2 polishes I'll talk about together because they're from the same release and I got them at the same time. Xylar Cat Eye and Cool Cat Mom from Hollow Taco. These are 2 of the 3 polishes from Christine's birthday release in 2023. The other one is Menchie Cat Eye, which did get used. That was actually the second Hollow Taco collection I ever bought, and these were some of the first polishes to join my collection after the Sophia collab. And I like both of them. I've used them a lot in the past. Xylar Cat Eye is a copper magnetic, and Cool Cat Mom has a blue base with pink magnetic pigment, which gives an overall purple effect. And paired with Menchie Cat Eye, which is green, I think they work really well for a Halloween palette. So I wore them in October a couple years in a row, but I just had other things I wanted to wear in October last year, so I didn't get to them. I do still like them. I'm sure I'll reach for them again at some point. I think it was just a case of not getting tired of them, but just that I had used them a lot when my collection was smaller and I didn't have as many options. And now that I do have more options, I've been focusing on other things. The next polish is Blue Rizzler, also from Holo Taco. It's a blue crushed hollow with pink shimmer from their rock candy collection. And I don't have as much of an explanation for this one. I got it in 2024, wore it twice then. I think it's really pretty, just never ended up reaching for it in 2025. Then we've got Nightshade, which is a muted purple cream from Holo Taco. It is one of my favorite creams, but I think I just don't reach for creams as much. There are a few of them on this list, but I'm sure I'll use it again at some point. Then we have Holo Taco's Curfew Crasher. Now, this is one that I also bought in my first few months of getting into nail polish when I was still figuring out my preferences. It's kind of a muted mauve color with gold shimmer, and it came out in the After Party collection, which featured a few glitters, and at the time I was intimidated by glitters since I heard they're hard to remove, so I got Curfew Crasher because it's a shimmer and more beginner friendly. But now I'm not sure if I really like the color, and I wish the shimmer were a little bolder. I do want to give it another chance, but if I wear it again and don't enjoy it, then I'll consider passing it along. Next is Take Me to Your Leader from Mooncat, and this is one I know I like. It has a purple base with copper shimmer, and that's one of my favorite color combos in nail polish, some kind of purple base with copper or orange or red shimmer. So the issue is that I've accumulated a lot of polishes in that color family, and I don't always have time to get to them all. But I have already worn Take Me to Your Leader this year. I did a fun gradient with some similar polishes, so I know I want to keep it around. But let me know if you'd like to see a video with all my polishes that have a purple base and a warm tone shimmer, because there's a few. Now we've got a couple more Holo Taco creams, Ginger Snatched and Brownie Points. I'm talking about them together because they both came out in the Cookies and Creams bundle and I got them at the same time, or each a couple times in 2024, and I really enjoy them. They're both browns, Ginger Snatched being that medium tone and Brownie Points being very dark. And I actually did plan to wear them last year. I was going to wear them in the last week of November, but I was visiting family that week and just didn't end up having time to paint my nails, and I had other things I wanted to wear in December, so they didn't get used. But I have already worn Brownie Points this year, and I'm sure I'll get to Ginger Snatched at some point. And the last polish in my collection that I didn't wear in 2025 is Holo Taco's One Coat Black. And this one seems surprising at first just because it's such a popular polish. When Christine does the Holo Taco data streams every year, One Coat Black is always the best seller, and it's top of the list of people's most used polishes. People like putting toppers over it, it's good for nail art, all that, and I did definitely use it a lot in 2024. But considering how I use polish, I'm actually not too surprised that I didn't use it in 2025. I don't do much in the way of nail art, and I do use toppers, but I like pairing them with other colors of cream or even specialty finish polishes because I just think that gives a more interesting result than putting them over black. So of course I'm going to keep One Coat Black in my collection, it's a stable polish, but I'm not going through my bottle at the rate that some other people do. So yeah, those are all the polishes that I had in my collection for all of 2025 but didn't wear. There are also a few polishes that I didn't get a chance to wear because I got them at the end of the year. Like I mentioned before, I added 14 polishes to my collection in November, and I was able to wear 4 of them before the end of 2025, and I've worn 6 so far this year, which just leaves 4 untried. Those are Amphibian Friend and Miracle Romance from Geeky Bees, Xyler the Cat from Holo Taco, and Highway Glow from Mooncat. So overall, even though I didn't wear absolutely everything, I'm happy with how I used my collection in 2025. I'm glad I let myself focus on what I really wanted to wear. Okay, so that just leaves talking about my favorite polishes of the year. These polishes did not all come out in 2025, some are older, but I tried them for the first time last year. I have a list of 15 favorites. I didn't have a certain number in mind for this list, but when I went through and looked at all the polishes I got this year and noted the ones I especially enjoyed, it was 15, and that felt like a good number. I'm not going to do a full swatch and review for each one, that would take too long, but I'll go through and say what I enjoyed about them and show clips from me wearing them. And if you want to hear more about them and see how they apply, you can take a look at my swatch and review playlist, since most of them should be there. And I'll go in roughly color order. First is The Dark Side from Mooncat. It was the Dearly Departed polish that I got in January since it had been on and off of my wish list, and I wanted to get it while I still could. It has a black base with silver flakes and blue hollow glitter. I'm not always that into silver, but it's a really nice contrast with the dark base, and the hollow sparkle is a nice touch. So I'm glad I picked it up. I've already worn it again this year. It's a good polish. Then we have a couple of grays. First is Secret Society from Holo Taco. It has a warm gray Crelly base with golden shimmer and scattered hollow, and that's such a fun, grungy combo. I don't think this was an especially popular polish. It came out in the Dark Academia collection in 2024, and there were definitely other polishes that got more attention, but this one's my favorite. It's a dark color, but you can still see the shimmer really clearly. I definitely want to wear it again soon. Then we have a prototype polish from Cadillacquer. I kind of impulse bought a couple of these mystery prototypes, and luckily I liked both of the ones I got, but especially this one. It has a sheer gray base, orange iridescent flakes, black flecks, and I think a little silver reflective glitter. So a very fun combination of elements, also a bit grungy, and I feel like these warm grays are pretty flattering on me, which isn't something I care about that much, but it's a nice bonus. And because the base is sheer, it also works well as a topper. I've tried it over a gray cream and over an orange glitter with pretty good results. Next up is another Cadillacquer Asteroid Surface, which is kind of like the cool toned version of the previous polish. And while I do generally like warmer colors, I just really love the flakes in this one. There are larger iridescent flakes that shift from green to aqua to indigo, and then very small black to red multichrome flakes, and that's just not a combo you see all the time. Plus, it's polish that works in 1, 2, or 3 coats, depending on the level of coverage and opacity that you're looking for, so that makes it versatile. And it was available on What's Up Nails last time I checked. Getting a little more colorful, next is You're Literally the Worst Person Ever, but You're Hot, so... This one is from Lurid Lacquer and their book trope series for Hella Handmade Creations, so it was limited edition. It has a hot pink jelly base, orange, yellow, green iridescent flakes, and pink reflective glitter. And I just love this finish from Lurid Lacquer. It's so sparkly, so fun, they really pack in the reflective glitters. I want it in all the colors. But I especially enjoy the hot pink combined with these warm flakes. So gorgeous. The next polish is kind of similar. It's Forces of Evil from Mooncat's Powerpuff Girls collection, and it has a pink-leaning red jelly base with pink, orange, and blue iridescent flakes and scattered hollow. It's just so eye-searingly bright, the flakes are so glowy, and I don't always want something super bright, but when I do, this polish is so good. I really want Mooncat to do more polishes in the style of the ones they did for the Powerpuff Girls collab. I thought those were all super fun and more creative than a lot of what they did in 2025. Back to Cadillacquer, the next polish is Lion's Mane. This is a polish pickup shade that was brought back during Rewind Month, but I'm not sure when it originally came out. It caught my eye because it's this mix of a reddish-orange base, golden orange shimmer, and pale blue matte hex glitters. I haven't seen another polish like this. Cadillacquer is so good at unexpected combos, and this one was so fun to wear. I don't have a lot of oranges, but I'm glad I have this one. Next is Coin Toss from Holo Taco and their Pixel Perfect collection. It's a pale gold hollow glitter that includes some square glitters. I have a few other Holo Taco glitter polishes, and I like all of them, and they're very hollow, but the couple that I have from Pixel Perfect are the lightest colors, and most of the color comes from the glitters themselves. If the base is tinted, it's just barely, so that means there's nothing to cover up the hollow. So Coin Toss is one of the most sparkly, most holographic polishes I own, and it's just so fun to wear. Now for something that's still sparkly but much darker, next is Death Threatens and Creeps and Lurches from Lurid Lacquer. It has a black and blue base, bronze to green shimmer, and bronze reflective glitter. And when those elements combine, the overall color impression I get is kind of a brownish green, but depending on the lighting and what the shimmer's doing, it can end up on the darker, less colorful side, or be a bit brighter and more vibrant. So it's a very fun, shifty polish. I love that I added a couple darker versions of shifty shimmers to my collection this year, and I definitely enjoyed wearing this one in the fall. Speaking of shifty shimmers, another one that I picked up from Lurid Lacquer is Brunhilde. This one is a swampy green with shimmer that shifts from red to orange to gold, and I have another polish that would potentially be considered a swampy green shimmer, Garden of Evil from Mooncat, but its shimmer is more purple, and in some lighting that makes the base look more gray. So I prefer Brunhilde because it always looks green, even as the shimmer goes through different colors. Some people might call it a prugly, but I just think it's pretty. Then we've got another lurid. There's a lot of them towards the end of this list. This one is Sunshine on the Waves from the Paradise Found collection. Earlier I mentioned their polishes with jelly bases, iridescent flakes, and reflective glitter, but they also have a lot with the glitter and flakes in a clear base, so most of the coverage and color comes from the reflective glitter. In this case, it's blue glitter and orange flakes. And I wasn't sure if I would like this finish, if I would be happy with the color payoff since the base is clear, but I decided to try this one and I ended up really enjoying it. It's very vibrant even without a tinted base, and obviously very sparkly because of the glitter. Now we've got a mooncat, Such Sweet Sorrow from the Baroque collection, one of the few mooncats that came out in 2025 that I picked up. It has a bluish-gray jelly base and very shiny purple shimmer. And I actually wasn't totally a fan of this one when I first swatched it. I felt like it was kind of sheer, and I was seeing too much of the base and not enough of the shimmer. But when I actually wore it and saw it in other lighting, I liked it a lot more. The shimmer is very glowy and goes from purple to yellow, which is not a shift I see very often, and I really enjoyed it. Then we have the only magnetic on the list, Extraterrestrial from Cadillacer. It has a multi-chrome base that shifts through different shades of purple and red, and then the magnetic shimmer is mostly lime green, but also goes through some other shades of green and aqua. So just a great color combo, very witchy, very Halloween-y. I am kind of getting tired of how many magnetic collections we've been seeing lately, but the occasional magnetic polish can be really nice. Back to lurid lacquer. Next is my favorite spooky bitch's favorite spooky bitch. It has a burgundy base and green to blue large particle shimmer. And this is a polish that I tried to buy with, I think, my second lurid order, but it sold out as I was checking out since there wasn't very much stock left. But luckily they brought it back around the time of their fall collection, so I was able to get it then. And I just really enjoy how shifty it is. In some lighting you have that burgundy green combo, and sometimes it looks more purple blue. I love how it's dark but still colorful. And last is the Cardboard Queen, also from Lurid. I think it was made to celebrate the 1-year brand anniversary. It has a cardboard brown base and pink to purple shimmer. I love brown polish, and I have a lot of dark browns, so it was nice to add this more mid-tone one. I think it's very pretty and flattering, and the shimmer is a nice touch even if it's not realistic for cardboard. And it also has such an amazing formula. It goes on so smooth, there's no unevenness, it self-levels well. I'm happy with the formula of all my Lurids, but this one is especially good. Oh, and I do have one honorable mention, Peace of Mind from Cadillacer. This one didn't make it onto my list initially, but I kept thinking back to how much I enjoyed it and how much I want to wear it again, so I felt like I should talk about it. It has a purple base with pink and blue iridescent flakes, and some of those flakes are very large, which I enjoy a lot. And all the colors in this polish are so saturated and vibrant. They're all kind of on the same level, but still distinct enough from each other to stand out. Plus they're the bi flag colors, so bonus points for that. I feel like Cadillacer is more known for their glitters than their flakies, but I want them to do more polishes like this with enormous flakes. So yeah, those are my favorite polishes that I tried for the first time in 2025, and that brings us to the end of my year in nail polish. Overall, I'm happy with how much I added to my collection and how I used my collection, and I enjoyed the polishes that I tried for the first time. I'm hoping that this year is similar. I've just placed one order so far for a couple of Cadillacers. I'm on a bit of a low buy for budget reasons, but we'll see if I'm able to continue that if and when I start having more income. It'll probably depend on what gets released. But yeah, I think that's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comments what you think about the polishes I bought in 2025, and if you have anything to share about your goals for your collection. And if you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would leave me a like or maybe even subscribe. Hyping videos is apparently also something you can do now. You could also follow me on Instagram, linked below. But thank you to everyone who has done any of that, and I'll see you next time. Bye!